In this era of diseases like COVID-19, the notion that you should do everything you can to improve immune response suddenly becomes very important. Most people don't pay much attention to their immune response until something like COVID-19 or the flu season begins. But your immune system, of course, is very important. It prevents various types of diseases. I'm not going to go into the nuances of the immune system. That's not the topic of this video. What I am going to talk about is a couple of nutrients that have some really good scientific evidence behind them to show that they will boost immune response. But I do want to say something. Recently, I wrote a massive article for my Applied Metabolic newsletter about nutrients that might offer both preventive, I should say, and treatment effects against COVID-19. Now, when you read the standard medical journal articles, when they talk about these same nutrients, and by the way, my article covered literally dozens of well-known and little-known nutrients and nutritional measures that will help to prevent COVID-19. I haven't seen anything more comprehensive than that article. The article itself was something like 50 pages, the size of an ebook. I believe that was in, I don't remember which issue it's in, but it was a very recent issue of Applied Metabolics. But the point is, though, as I said, when you read a lot of professional opinions from the medical profession about these nutrients, they always add a proviso that, the vitamin D seems to help prevent viral diseases, but there's no evidence that it helps against COVID-19, so you shouldn't bother supplementing it, which to me is the same type of thinking that goes along with their advice on vitamin mineral supplements, and I've talked about this in past videos, where these so-called medical experts will say you don't need to take vitamins and minerals. You can get all your vitamins from food. But that's based on the notion of a balanced diet, that you're getting all your nutrients from food, which about maybe 1 out of 100 people actually do that. Most people are always lacking certain nutrients because they don't follow balanced diets. A lot of people don't eat dairy foods. They don't eat enough fruits and vegetables. They're not even coming close to eating balanced diets. But in relation to these immune protection nutrients, there actually is good evidence. I looked into it quite thoroughly. I looked into the research for my article that was in Applied Metabolics, and the research is extremely impressive. So I'm not going to say that they will totally prevent acquiring COVID-19, but they certainly will make the difference. And this is an important point. Ingesting these nutrients will definitely make the difference, probably between having a mild to moderate a case of COVID-19 that feels like a bad flu, to the type of progression of COVID-19 where you're on a respirator. Once you're put on a respirator, you only have a 1 in 10 chance of surviving. Once you go on a respirator, basically with COVID-19, basically you're dying. So these nutrients, if they do nothing more than prevent a person from having to be put on a respirator, I would say is worth it. So again, this isn't about COVID-19. This video, I just want to describe an overview of a couple of nutrients that have good scientific evidence to show that they definitely will help immune response. The first one, and probably the most famous, the one that's been getting the most headlines, is vitamin D, which is a fat-soluble nutrient which is essential to the functioning of the immune system. Vitamin D enhances the pathogen-fighting effects of two types of immune cells called monocytes and macrophages, and also decreases inflammation. Inflammation is a major part of that's what causes the deathly effects of COVID-19. Out of control inflammation, and vitamin D appears to help protect against that level of inflammation. Also, let's see here. You should know that according to statistics, 42% of people are deficient in vitamin D. Personally, I think that's a low figure. That's the official figures. I think it's low, because the truth is, vitamin D, as I've said in past videos, very difficult to get from food sources. There's really no reliable source of of vitamin D in the food supply. The most reliable source is actually sun exposure. But even there's a couple of caveats. For one thing, the sun has to be in the right place in the sky to emit the wavelength of ultraviolet rays that stimulates the conversion of cholesterol in the skin into vitamin D. And in certain, like, let's say, northern latitudes during the winter, the sun is not in the right part of the sky. You don't get the right spectrum of UV rays. So the sun could be out, but you're not going to get the vitamin D conversion. If you have a lot of body fat, any vitamin D made in your skin is going to be sequestered in the fat. It's not going to do you much good. If you're an older person, your body is less efficient at converting at the ultraviolet conversion of cholesterol to D. And if you have darker skin, you'll also have a problem. So while sunlight at the right place and time, let's say, is a good source of vitamin D, it's only around at certain times of the year that you can get this really effective, and this interesting thing, they've shown in places like Arizona, which usually has sun most of the year, you still have the same number of people deficient in vitamin D. How could that be? Because it's simply not getting out in the sun enough. In other words, it's probably too hot or whatever, and they're wearing clothes and they're not getting the vitamin D exposure, even though the sun is in the right place. So what does this mean? It means that the only really reliable source of vitamin D are supplements. And the good news, vitamin D supplements tend to come in tiny, tiny little gel capsules in various potencies. They're very, very easy to swallow. They're not expensive at all. They're one of the most least expensive supplements I've ever come across. So there's really no excuse. The only thing you have to remember is that vitamin D is a fat-soluble nutrient, and you get 67% better uptake of vitamin D when you take it with a little bit of fat. It doesn't have to be a lot, a pat of butter, tablespoon of some sort of oil. That's all you need to absorb the vitamin. Now, in regard to COVID-19, there's been quite a few studies indicating that vitamin D can be very effective at helping to prevent COVID-19. And yet, again, the authorities or the medical researchers, they play that down. They said, don't depend on vitamin D. But when they've actually tested COVID-19 patients for their levels of activated vitamin D in the body, 80% of them are deficient. 80% of people with COVID-19 are deficient. A lack of these is related to the increased incidence of various upper respiratory infections, including colds and influenza or flu. I've seen many anecdotal reports of people who started taking vitamin D who claim that once they started vitamin D, they never got the flu again, despite not getting flu vaccinations. I personally have, a little skeptical about that. Not that vitamin D doesn't work in that sense, but I do believe in getting vaccinated for influenza every year. And it's true that the flu vaccine is only about 60% effective, and that's taking into account that you have a immune system that's working. If for some reason your immune system is not working, let's say you're an older person who's in bad health and has let's say a little bit of immune deficiency, flu vaccines will do absolutely nothing because they work in concert with your immune response. But if you have a normal immune response, I don't believe in all the crap that you read online, all this conspiracy theory nonsense about the danger of flu vaccines. That's garbage. I have asthma. I'm considered high risk for both COVID-19, no, not COVID-19, but for influenza. And I know that's true because when the few times in the last 30 years, I think I've gotten the serious cases of flu twice. And it really hit me very hard, much harder than most people, where it's almost like I couldn't even move. I was laying, it's probably, my symptoms I think would probably be very similar to somebody with serious COVID-19 when I had just the flu. And here's the point I'm trying to make. Both times that I got those serious cases of flu, I did not have a flu vaccine. Those are the years that I did not have a flu vaccine. Every year that I've had the flu vaccine, I have never contracted the flu. So, to each his own, but I will continue to get the flu vaccine. Other studies note that vitamin D supplements may improve response to antiviral treatments in people with certain infections, including hepatitis C and HIV. Depending on blood levels, Anywhere from 1,000 to 4,000 units of supplemental vitamin D per day is sufficient for most people, although those with more serious deficiencies may require much higher doses. Another nutrient that got a lot of publicity because of the COVID-19 situation is zinc. There's some good evidence that zinc offers preventative effects against COVID-19. Of course, zinc is a trace mineral, and a deficiency in zinc significantly affects your immune system's ability to function properly, and it results in an increased risk of infection and disease, including pneumonia. According to research, 16% of all deep respiratory infections worldwide have been found to be due to zinc deficiency. Zinc deficiency affects about 2 billion people in the world and is very common in older adults. In fact, up to 30% of older adults are considered deficient in this nutrient, and probably because they don't eat enough of foods that contain zinc. The best foods for zinc are animal protein foods, meat, fish, that type of thing. If you don't eat those foods, then there's a good chance you could be lacking sufficient zinc unless you take a supplement. Supplemental zinc may also reduce the duration of the common cold. When the COVID-19 epidemic first began, some research showed that zinc seemed to block the ability of the SARS-CoV-2 virus, that's the virus that causes COVID-19, to interact with what they call ACE2 receptors. Zinc kind of stood in the way and prevented the virus from interacting with the receptors. And if it couldn't interact with the receptors, it couldn't get in the cells and it couldn't make you sick. So knowing that, people started buying, they've been selling what they call zinc lozenges for years, because studies maybe 20, 30 years ago showed that zinc lozenges, if you take them and let them melt and coat your upper respiratory, it seems to inhibit cold viruses or rhinoviruses from taking hold. And cold viruses, by the way, are also coronaviruses, just like COVID-19, the virus that caused COVID-19. So what happened was when, I'm laughing, it's kind of funny, when COVID-19 first came out, people were all over the internet talking about the effect of zinc in preventing the virus from taking hold. So you could not get zinc lozenges. They were sold out everywhere. Every website, sold out. But in other words, there is something to it. But to tell you the truth, whether I strongly doubt that zinc lozenges alone, no matter how much you took of them, if you have somebody breathing or coughing in your face who had COVID, the zinc is not going to prevent you from getting it, contrary to popular belief. But it does demonstrate antiviral activity. There's no question about it. It will build up your immune system, and in that sense, it will give you some protection against COVID-19, or, as I keep emphasizing, the more serious aspects. This is what I want to emphasize. I'm not saying any of these nutrients that I'm discussing will prevent COVID-19. What I'm saying is that if you are taking these, you will beef up your immune system to the point where if you are unfortunate enough to get COVID-19, you will most likely get a milder case. I'm not going to say you're not going to feel sick, but it's not going to put you in the intensive care ward where you can literally die. Whether you live or die with COVID-19 depends on your immune response. That's what it depends on. People with weak immune responses are the ones that usually die. So that's the whole point of this video. Take these nutrients, build up your immune system, do other things that are good for health, such as exercise. And while I'm on this subject, you'll probably see this by the time you see this video, that COVID-19 will be starting. Hopefully most people will be vaccinated. As I speak right now, there's only apparently about 48% of people in the United States have received 2 vaccinations, meaning that they have 95% protection against COVID-19. A lot of people aren't getting vaccinated because of, again, stupid conspiracy theories and nonsense that the messenger RNA that composes, let's say, the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, they get into your cells and they cause cancer, and you're going to have all these side effects up the line. It's all BS. It's all nonsense. None of that's going to happen. The only thing these vaccines are going to do is protect you against getting COVID-19. And believe me, there's no comparison. I mean, if it comes down to getting a vaccine and not getting it and acquiring COVID-19, believe me, you want to get the vaccine, because what a lot of people don't realize, even if you get, this is an important point, even if you get a mild case of COVID-19, It causes changes in the body that are permanent. In other words, you're gonna, for the rest of your life, it's hard to say where this could happen. It could happen in the brain, it could happen in the gastrointestinal tract, it could happen in the heart, it could happen in the muscles. But it's going to cause changes in your body. Even if you get it cured and seem healthy again, it's going to stay with you the rest of your life. You don't want to get COVID-19. So get vaccinated. And I just want to mention that. Anyway, back to zinc. Taking zinc long-term is typically safe for healthy adults as long as the daily dose is under the upper limit of 40 milligrams of elemental zinc. Single doses of 225 to 450 milligrams of zinc usually induce vomiting. By the way, there was a study a couple of years ago. It was with a study of doctors or physicians. They found that physicians who ingest more than 100 milligrams a day of zinc. Now, the daily requirement for zinc, as you should know, is only 11 milligrams. So, if these guys were taking 100 milligrams a day or more, and there seemed to be a connection between higher zinc levels and the increased incidence of prostate cancer. I think the connection there would be because there's what they call a hormesis effect of zinc, meaning if you get too little zinc, you get a zinc deficiency. If you get too much, instead of stimulating the immune system, it depresses the immune system, and a depression of the immune system allows tumors to grow because certain cells in the immune system called T cells tend to destroy incipient tumors before they take hold. I think that's probably with the mechanism with excess zinc. Mild gastrointestinal distress has been reported at doses of 50 to 100 milligrams a day of zinc. The recommended daily requirement for zinc is only 11 milligrams a day for men and 8 milligrams for women. You can get up to 50 milligrams a day of zinc and you still be safe. But when you get up to the higher levels of zinc, you want to make sure that you balance that with another mineral called copper. The ratio should be 3 to 1. In other words, if you take 30 milligrams of zinc, you want to get about maybe 1 or 2 milligrams of copper. That's the actual requirement of copper, 1 to 2, because excess zinc causes the excretion of copper, which could theoretically lead to a copper deficiency. Among the effects of a copper deficiency are a certain type of anemia, and also the aorta, the large artery leading out of the heart, tends to break down, which you don't want to happen, believe me. So in other words, copper is very easy to get. In fact, there's a school of thought that people get too much copper, and excess copper is related to the development of Alzheimer's and Parkinson's diseases. We got free copper because it's very, very prone to oxidation, but that's another story. The certain food elements interfere with zinc absorption. For example, phytic acid found in grains. It's found in cereals, corn, and rice. It tends to lock on or kind of chelate to zinc and just pull it right out of the body. So you got to be careful of that. Most phytate, however, is removed from foods before they hit the markets. It's more of a case of eating like raw food. I don't know anybody who eats raw grains. Animal protein foods, on the other hand, increase zinc uptake. Another nutrient that got a lot of publicity during this COVID-19 pandemic is vitamin C. As I wrote in my article in Applied Metabolics, there was again, I have to laugh. There was a couple of videos being circulated where people were saying that if you take at the onset of COVID-19 symptoms, if you take 2,000 milligrams of vitamin C every hour, I believe it was for 12 hours, you would completely destroy the COVID-19 virus. There was absolutely no evidence for that, and yet I saw this on various websites. But vitamin C does support the function of various immune cells and enhances their ability to protect against infection. It's also necessary for cellular death or apoptosis, which helps keep your immune system cells healthy by clearing out old cells and replacing them with new ones. A large review of 29 studies of 11,306 people demonstrated that regularly supplemented with vitamin C at an average dose of 1 to 2 grams per day reduced the duration of colds by 8% in adults and 14% in children. The review also demonstrated that regularly taking vitamin C supplements reduced common cold occurrence in individuals under high physical stress, including marathon runners, soldiers, or bodybuilders who are overtraining. Intravenous vitamin C has been suggested as a way to prevent acute respiratory stress syndrome. This is where it comes into play with COVID-19, because acute respiratory distress syndrome, or ARDS, that's the thing that puts you on respiratory. It's basically a failure. You can't breathe and you have to go on a respirator. And intravenous vitamin C has been shown to prevent that, and that is a complication of COVID-19. So again, it has to be the intravenous route, because orally you can only absorb 200 milligrams. Well, not absorb, but let's say, well, no. What happens is orally, if you take more than 200 milligrams of vitamin C, the rest of it is pissed out right away. If you take, let's say, 500 milligrams of vitamin C, anything over 200 is going to be excreted out. But intravenous, it's a whole different story. Then you get the full power. That's why this protection against ARDS only works with IV vitamin C. There's also studies showing that IV vitamin C might help treat certain forms of cancer too. There's another herb that actually I've been recommending for years to take at the onset of a flu. Is called elderberry, because some early studies showed that if you take elderberry right at the start of the flu, it has to be like within 1 to 2 days of contracting the flu, it actually prevents flu virus replication. So even if it doesn't cure the flu, it decreases the bad symptoms of the flu and also decreases the duration of the flu by a couple of days. And these test tube studies show that elderberry extract demonstrates potent antibacterial and antiviral potential against bacterial pathogens responsible for upper respiratory infections and strains of the influenza virus. A 2019 review of 4 randomized control studies in 180 people found that elderberry supplements significantly reduce upper respiratory symptoms caused by viral infections. A 2004 5-day study demonstrated that people with the flu who supplemented with 1 tablespoon of elderberry syrup 4 times a day experienced symptom relief 4 days earlier than those who didn't take the syrup and were less reliant on medication. That's what I was talking about. Unfortunately, full disclosure, that particular study was paid for by a company that sells elderberry syrup, so we're going to leave that up to you. Some have suggested that elderberry could be used to help treat COVID-19 patients because, again, of its effect on preventing upper respiratory virus infections. Mushrooms. There's. I'm going to do a big article in my Applied Metabolics newsletter on medicinal mushrooms because they have tremendous effects. I mean, just startling effects. I myself use certain supplemental mushrooms extracts, particularly one that I did a video on this called lion's mane, because of its effect on increasing nerve growth factor. It's basically what you call a nootropic mushroom, medicinal mushroom. It increases focus and concentration. It really does work. But there's over 270 recognized species of medicinal mushrooms and that are known to have immune-enhancing properties. These include cordyceps, lion's mane, maitake, shiitake, reishi, and turkey tail. All of these types have been shown to benefit immune health. In a randomized 8-week study in 79 adults published in 2019, supplementing with 1.7 grams of cordyceps mycelium culture extract led to a significant 38% increase in the activity of natural killer cells, T cells, I should say. It's a type of white blood cell that protects against infection, including, as I said, incipient tumors and viruses. Turkey tail is another medicinal mushroom that has powerful effects on immune health. Research in humans indicates that turkey tail may enhance immune response, especially in people with certain types of cancer. Other immune boosting supplements, a couple I'll just reel off. Astragalus. Astragalus is another herb commonly used in traditional Chinese medicine. Animal research suggests that the extract may significantly improve immune response. Selenium is a trace mineral. It's essential for immune health. Again, animal research demonstrates that selenium supplements may enhance antiviral defense against influenza strains, including the H1N1 version. If people consumed selenium during the Spanish flu, there probably would have been several million less deaths. But nobody really knew about selenium back then. It's kind of sad. Garlic. Garlic has a powerful anti-inflammatory and antiviral power. In fact, garlic was the first antibiotic during World War I. They actually placed garlic on wounds because they knew that garlic killed bacteria on contact, and it prevented serious infections that might lead to amputation of limbs. So this effect of garlic has been known for quite a while. Garlic has been shown to enhance immune health by stimulating natural killer cells and macrophages. Human research is limited, but I think the research I've seen is I take garlic. I take what they call aged garlic. I take 2 capsules twice a day. Take it for a number of reasons. It contains certain sulfur factors that are very, very good for you. One of the reasons I take garlic, just as a tangential statement here, is that I've seen animal studies that seem to suggest that the sulfur compounds in garlic prevent the accumulation of abnormal folded proteins in the brain that cause diseases such as Alzheimer's disease. So that's one of the reasons I take garlic. Andrographis, that's an herb that contains andrographolide. That's a terpenoid compound found to have antiviral effects against respiratory-causing viruses, including influenza A. Licorice contains many substances, including glycerin, that help protect against viral infections. According to test tube or in vitro research, glycerin exhibits antiviral activity against severe acute respiratory syndrome-related coronavirus. In other words, it exhibits antiviral activity against the SARS-CoV-2 virus that causes COVID-19. Be careful with licorice, because it contains substance in it which cause the excretion of potassium. It can cause some problems with blood pressure. So don't go crazy on licorice. Last one I'll mention is echinacea. A lot of people use echinacea herb when they at the onset of a cold. It's in the plant in the daisy family, and certain species of echinacea have been shown to improve immune health and may have antiviral effects against several respiratory viruses, including respiratory syncytial virus and rhinoviruses, which are the viruses that cause the common cold. So these are a couple of nutrients. Most of these are included in my article that I appeared in Applied Metabolics about nutrients to prevent COVID-19, where I went to a lot more detail than I could ever do in this video. Because if I try to repeat in this video everything I wrote in that article, the video would be, and I'm not exaggerating, about 4 or 5 hours long. So, I'm not one of these people that's going to torture you like some people do with 3-hour podcasts, which I think are just absurd. That's just a personal opinion. I don't understand how they'd expect anyone to sit in front of a screen and watch a podcast for 3 hours. I don't care what the subject's about or who they're interviewing. The human attention span for videos is maximized at 18 to 20 minutes, and at 28 minutes, I've already gone over the maximal attention span. So I'm going to end this now. If you want to have more information on nutrition, exercise science, hormonal therapy, anti-aging research you can use today, fat loss techniques that really work, ergogenic aids, women's health and fitness, and many more topics. Nobody covers as many topics in depth as I do. And Applied Metabolics, www.appliedmetabolics.com. It's 40 to 50 pages every month, no ads, just straight informative information written in plain English. Unlike other digital newsletters that are written by amateurs who are not professional writers, I am a professional writer. I've been writing for over 40 years. I know how to translate technical material into plain English, understood by anyone with a 6th grade education. So it's very readable. I put in a lot of anecdotes there about the old days training at Gold's Gym and stuff. I try and make it interesting, trying to make it entertaining as well as informative. So subscribe today, www.appliedmetabolics.com. When you subscribe, you can I'll send you an invitation to join my private Applied Metabolics Facebook page, where unfortunately lately Facebook has changed their policy. I used to be able to send people an invitation to join the private group as soon as I got their subscription, but Facebook changed that. Now you have to the person has to be a Facebook friend, which is ridiculous. So if any of you are interested, if you subscribe and you don't get an invitation to join my private Applied Metabolics Facebook page, just send me a regular Facebook friend invitation. I'll approve it, and then I can send you the invitation to join the private Facebook page. It's ridiculous, but that's Facebook. There's a lot of stupid policies of Facebook. That's one of them. Also, I have an email portal on my Applied Metabolics website where current subscribers only can send me short questions. I'll be happy to answer. I don't accept unsolicited questions. You have to be a subscriber. You're welcome to leave questions and comments under the video. I won't answer the questions, but anyone else is welcome to. You want to leave a comment about possible future video topics, I'm open to that too. Unless they're just ridiculous or unless there's no science behind them. I'm not into nonsensical hypothetical theories. I will discuss anything that has at least some evidence behind it. If it doesn't, I'm not going to do it. I'm just not into that stuff. I'll leave that for the bro science guys. There's plenty of them on the internet. And let's see, what else can I say? That's about it. If you want to have the best friend you'll ever have, go to your local shelter, adopt a dog. They're the best. Take care, and keep away from that COVID-19. And again, at the risk of sounding redundant, please don't believe all the crap about the dangers of COVID vaccines. I had COVID vaccination. I had 2 of the Pfizer vaccines. I had no problems with it, other than my penis falling off. Now that's just a joke. That's just a joke. I had no problems at all. The only thing I experienced from the COVID-19 after the second injection, the shoulder that they injected me was sore for exactly 24 hours. It was very sore, but I was still able to work out. Coincidentally, within hours after I got the second injection, I had to work out, and it was a shoulder workout. And even though I had the pain in the shoulder, I was able to work shoulders with no problem. No problem at all. It's the same amount of weight, which isn't much these days, but I still managed to lift the same amount of weight. So it's up to you, but as long as, keep this in mind, as long as people refuse to get COVID vaccinations, the COVID-19 pandemic is going to continue to exist. And it can also come back in full force in a couple of months. The stubborn and ignorant people that are afraid of the COVID-19, they're the ones that are keeping this alive and hurting everybody else. So I'll just leave it at that. Take care.